Welcome back to Bonded Voices. We're excited to have you back for Season 2, Gen X. Our topic today is a movie that we all know and love, The Breakfast Club, and how it defined our generation. I'm Greg.
This is Loren.
And I'm Ian.
Welcome. So, we don't know many Gen Xers that don't have similar feelings to this movie. And it's interesting when you think of it at a high level and then the complexities within the movie. It's such a simple concept. It's one day. It's life in high school kids. It's not a raunchy movie like a typical high school teenage movie, but it covers so much depth.
Yeah, I think each one of us can identify with a character that's in there, or we hope to identify with one of the characters in there, and that's how we self-identify with that movie quite a bit. And it's funny how I was listening to the soundtrack on the way over here tonight, and there's only one song, but it's the quintessential song of Generation X. Everyone knows that song, and everyone knows that movie by that song.
For me, it's different because this is an American movie, right? We never had high school the way you guys had high school. So there's certain parts of it, we would watch it in England and be like, huh, is that what it's like in American high school?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
How was it different, like, from a high level?
Well, they didn't have detention. Because
no, we very much did. Yeah, we got thrashed instead. But we didn't have some of the, just the attitude. England was very much in that era, still in a mode where if you were into a certain style of music, you were that person. Like if you were a punk, you were a punk.
Okay.
If you were in a mod, you're a mod. And so we didn't look at people. The jock thing didn't really exist in England. If you played sport, whatever, but you weren't a jock.
Okay.
So we never had that. And then, the emo girl that's in that, we just had people who were into alternative music. So in our schools, it was never seen the same way. So for us, it was an interesting look into your life in America at the time.
Would it be safe to say that they were portrayed in greater extremes?
They seem to
be the definition of their characters,
more caricatures of themselves. And then when you look at the movie, you have to say to yourself, how many movies were made in the 80s? Why did this one leave a legacy?
Well, I think it goes back to self-identifying. We all want to feel like that's my character. That's my life. It's a mirror of what I'm experiencing in high school right now. There's a ton of jocks that are like, oh yeah, that's me, or you're the Bender character, or whatever. Yeah, I was more of the Bender character type.
I can't remember it fully, but did every character come away from that movie satisfied with their own persona? Or did any of them change, or did any of them regret who they were? Because I have a brief recollection that the jock guy was made to feel bad about being the jock guy. Because he was dominant. And
well, the reason that he was in detention was that he had beat up a kid.
Taped his butt cheeks together.
That's right. And so his dad had embarrassed him and said that he had shamed him and he wasn't going to get a scholarship. And Bender was there on a regular basis.
Yep.
What I recollect from the end of that movie was a desire for them to connect with each other, but a very sober mindset that come 8 o'clock Monday morning when school's back in session, they're all going to ignore each other again.
Right. But isn't that the human condition of when you're forced into like a close group? For like if you're all in a plane, you decide to get on with the people on the plane, you're not getting off for 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Where in normal life, you'd be like, bye.
We actually touched on this topic in our first season of shared experiences and the impact of those shared experiences and how it binds people together based on maybe they were on a football team together or they were through some tragic event together. And I think that this movie exemplifies that experience as well, that they really connected as individuals. In fact, I was doing a little bit of research before we started this recording. It's my understanding that the whole scene where they all open up to each other, it was all ad-libbed.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Wow, so you look at this movie, right, and it's quintessential Gen X. I think everyone our age has seen it or saw it. Everyone has probably a good memory of the film because it was a well-made film.
Mm-hmm.
What legacy now, if we played this to our kids, would they relate the same to it?
I think they would, because there's still those groups. You may not be the emo group, as defined as it was in that movie,
mm-hmm.
but there's still groups. And high school is a microcosm of groups that you're all trying to interact with and make it through in a somewhat healthy fashion and not be depressed your whole life and whatever. So I think that still resonates with people. I think it also helps people understand that there's other sides. You know, if you're just looking at it from one perspective,
mm-hmm.
that movie helped you go, oh, well, I never thought about it from the preppy girls view or the nerd's view or the jock's view. I only thought of it one way. Now you see everyone's got problems. Everyone's going through the same struggles and learning to connect with these people.
And I think as we get older as well, when you're in the present as one of those kids that age, you'll self-identify with something the closest to who you are. And you're right, as an adult, though, you look down and you look back on it and you actually go, I get that, why that person's that way. I get why that person's
mm-hmm.
this way. That makes more sense now looking back. Musically, you said there's only one song. What other songs were in that movie? Wasn't Cyndi Lauper in there? Wasn't Jay Giles in there as well? Or am I wrong? I don't know.
I don't remember Jay Giles.
I don't remember.
I remember the sequence when they all got stoned, but that was just like electronic music with just this percussion.
Was it Harold Faltermeyer or someone like that who was big? He did like a bunch of those.
Could have been.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly all the other songs on that soundtrack are stuff like that. Because I remember, they had the theme while Bender was crawling through the attic, and when they're running through the halls, there's a different theme.
I want to be an airborne ranger.
Yeah. But exactly. But there's all these like techno songs, for the lack of a better term,
mm-hmm.
but there's no real songs. So I think that's the reason why the Simple Minds song sticks with us so much.
Well, and it also has the end of the movie where Judd Nelson takes Molly Ringwald's earring, puts it in his ear, because she, as the princess in the school, shouldn't have any romantic interest in this bad boy. She gives him the earring, he puts it in his ear, and walks across what was to be the football field, and the end of the movie ends with him holding he's triumphant in the moment.
Right. It's interesting. Simple Minds, a Scottish band in a quintessentially American film.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of that is the magic of John Hughes' brain. He had amazing soundtracks in that era of movies. So, do you guys remember the city, the high school that it was?
No.
Oh, I remember when it's opening, when they're talking, but I can't remember the name.
Shermer High School.
Shermer, yeah.
So Shermer, Illinois, which is the same setting for Pretty in Pink. Vacation. National Lampoon Vacation.
Wow.
Ferris
Bueller's Day Off. What's the 16 Candles?
So was it just a tax haven or something for filmmaking?
I don't know.
Wow.
And
I mean, those were John Hughes's. Oh, and Weird Science, same city.
Was it?
Which is just a suburb of Chicago.
I didn't realize that Weird Science was there. I, for some reason, thought that was a.
So John Hughes, I don't know if that was his hometown. He just loved that city. But it's interesting that it stayed that consistent. And actually, his hope was that Breakfast Club was going to be his first director debut, but it actually was 16 Candles.
Okay.
They did those movies back to back, and the production side pushed out 16 Candles first.
So we're going to have to go back and look up soundtrack-wise who else was on there, because it'd be interesting to see if there was any... Yeah, but you
If
might...
only we had a device.
There's a way to do it, right? So while Loren does that, Greg, a burning question always with Gen X stuff is, why does it matter now? You know, we're 30 years on from there, right? So, or even more.
Well, this would be a great... so I might volley this back over the net to you.
Okay.
So within the Gen X group, there tends to be people that want to forever relive their high school experience,
Yep.
and those that forever want to forget it.
I 100% agree with that, yeah.
I think that this movie crosses that gap, and for some that want to forget it, they might align more with Bender. Those that want to remember, they might align more with the Jock or the Princess.
Okay.
And so I think that why it's still relevant today is it elicits the feelings of, I remember when I saw that movie for the first time. I remember when I went to the movie theater. Whatever the situation was the first time you saw it. And I think drawing yourself to some of those characters. And maybe now we have the perspective, looking at life through other characters and understanding the beauty of each one of those characters.
What's the music say?
Well, so here's the soundtrack. I mean, you can take a look. I don't see any other songs that I would recognize. There are a lot of...
Again, we're Gen X, so I need to put my glasses on for this. But
Keith Forsey?
what are we looking at?
So
let me have a look. So we're looking at Wang Chung.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Keith Forsey. Now, here's the other thing about, from my experience in the music industry, a lot of times there's very limited budgets. And what they would do is they would lean on a particular composer. Like Danny Elfman did a lot of them. And so this could have been, and looking at the name, this could have been Keith Forsey, who was the music director in this, or was the main music supplier. And they were looking for just a title song for the movie to make it work. Because back then, soundtracks were so different than what soundtracks are. No one remembers a soundtrack today. But in the 80s and the 70s, you remember the soundtrack.
yes.
And especially the 80s, because they really lent heavily on amazing songs that just absolutely set the tone for a movie. Like Ghostbusters, you know, you
Sure,
remember
yeah.
that Harold Faltermeyer sound and the songs that were in there. And you could just go through a myriad of movies where Footloose and all that. The song, they were a soundtrack of a generation. I don't think you can say that about everything from 2000 onwards, probably. The movies aren't a soundtrack of a generation.
Right.
Because they're just a mishmash of everything. And content became so much more proliferated amongst indie producers, and people weren't as big on the movie theater as they were back then.
So I'm thinking of the first American Pie movie.
Yep.
Amazing soundtrack.
It was amazing. My friend was the music supervisor on that film.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So will we find your name somewhere?
No, not my name. His name.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not
Dave's
just like
name's on
friend
there.
of Ian.
No.
All right, I didn't know.
But yeah, but he did an incredible job on that movie. And a limited budget as well. Very limited.
So is there a connection or no connection that was also a high school based movie of kids going through the awkward experience of their high school years, that made that soundtrack more memorable as well?
No, I think that genre of music is a Lockwood repeat as generations just keep turning over. There's always going to, because remember, they're at the age children are young adults where they are starting to a bit of a retrospective on their life growing up, and that's why those things connect, especially when they're made for that particular generation.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you age out of it a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know, I think when you look at 13, 14-year-olds, they're fascinated with watching horror movies. And then by the time you're 26, you're like,
Another slasher movie.
right. why bother? You know, you're looking for something a bit more deep, a bit more complex.
So what are some other... We've learned one of the life lessons in this movie is perspective.
Yep.
What are some other life lessons that we maybe didn't realize as we watched that movie, but now we look back on it and realize what else we learned from that experience? What other things did it teach?
I actually would look at that and say it taught me about quality and putting the right pieces of a puzzle together as you build your life to create something that's lasting. Mm-hmm. So when you take great acting, great cinematography, great set, great music, the right length of movie, you go away going, wow, that's phenomenal. And I think we all could come up with 50 movies that are garbage that you never ever want to see again. Mm-hmm. But a handful of things like maybe Apocalypse Now or The Deer Hunter, where you like amazing movies. 3 Days of the Condor, phenomenal movies.
That's
Great Escape,
movie.
Great movies. The Breakfast Club, great movie, right? So I think you've got those within that generation where it taught me, do it right, whatever you do, whether it's, you know, working on the yard or putting production together of something, find the right pieces to make it work. Because that will last and leave more of a legacy with it.
As you were saying that, I was thinking, why Breakfast Club and not Weird Science? Same genre, some of the same some of the same actors.
Yeah.
But Weird Science went down a whole technology side.
It did.
And got a little cheesy in that,
yeah.
where no technology whatsoever at all in Breakfast Club.
Well, see, Breakfast Club was about interpersonal relationships.
Yes, there you go.
That's what it is. So instead of, for my takeaway, would be the theme of the movie is learning how to expand my friend group, learning to talk to other people, and, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. That's the whole concept.
I think that would be a big takeaway, right?
I mean, that was the whole
cover.
thing of the movie was that.
Right. Yeah.
I think it also would be the sort of movie that would leave you with the idea of great acting. They couldn't lean on special effects. Mm-hmm. Really, the scene was in one small area of a school. Mm-hmm. It wasn't jumping around to different scenes and landscape and flashbacks and everything else. It was pretty much isolated in there. So the actors had to be good actors.
Yeah, very much so.
And I think that was the era when special effects were coming in more and more and more. And in the same way, music's been affected by auto-tuning of vocals to make people sound like they can sing. I think movies now, with AI and everything, it makes you think, wow, Tom Cruise can really do that. And they say, yeah, he does all his own stunts. But there's still a lot of CG going on there.
Sure. Well, Breakfast Club didn't rely on any of that. So it allowed, instead of your brain thinking about can a human being really hold on to the side of an aircraft as it takes off and gets up to altitude, that part of your brain is just relaxed in watching The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
It's not worried about these weird, is someone going to survive a knife fight, or it's just a simple Saturday morning in detention. And I think the lack of that also led to the extreme boredom for anybody that may or may not have spent time in detention. that was the issue. It was the boredom of, I got to sit here for 3 hours on a Saturday morning.
So
that movie portrayed that very well.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see, did you identify with a character in that movie?
As you were talking about that, I know more about Anthony Michael Hall's character than I do anybody else, but I did not identify as the nerd then, nor do I now. I might be the nerd.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. Did any of this change over the last 30 years? I think I fell into that bender in the high school era, but now I could totally relate to the principal.
The principal.
Yeah. That's where I feel now. It's a full circle.
Well, you actually have grown up then. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
See, for me in England, I don't think I related to any of those characters. I had empathy for the different struggles that they were going through. And maybe, again, it is just an English thing. I never was like, that could be me. I never felt that at all. Love the movie.
Is it possible that maybe we see a little bit of ourselves in each one of the characters?
Yeah.
That maybe not one
Yeah.
of them so perfectly personifies who we are, that we see a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yep. 100% agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you would have to. I mean, they were caricature, so to get it identical to that would be very rare. But yeah, I think it's a mixture of all of them, or maybe 2 or 3 of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I never felt like a princess.
So we'd love to say to you listening,
Okay.
give us some of your feedback on The Breakfast Club, your experience with it, and which characters you actually related to, because this is something where you may be like, they're just talking about a Gen X thing. If you're in this age group, to have this conversation, you'll be stunned how rich a conversation it will be with other people in that particular age group.
Oh, yeah. You can bring this up to anybody. Oh, yeah, I remember that movie. That was my favorite movie and whatever.
They'll remember different scenes. But I think going deeper than that, like we're doing, going into that emotional thing, like what was it really all about? What did it leave us with 30, 40 years later? Is a great conversation to have.
Absolutely.
Because I think it teaches us a lot about who we are, whether you're empathetic, could give a crap, just your eye for quality. Do you remember things well? Does it trigger other emotions? Like, where were you when you watched that movie? They're the things I think it really hits, because I think we all would have watched it at the time in a movie theater. That was the era before DVD on demand and all that. So we wouldn't have been watching it at home. We would have all seen it in a movie
We had
theater.
Blockbuster back then, didn't we? It was,
We had
it was
Blockbuster,
80, what was it, 80?
but I don't think we'd have seen that
85.
movie outside of the movie theater for a while after that, because they'd embargo it for a long while.
That's
usually.
right.
It took a long while for the entertainment industry to get to the point where it was basically out on DVD weeks later. You're talking way after that.
Yeah, so at the time it would have been all the James Bond movies that were at Blockbuster.
Yep. And those B movies that couldn't make it into the movie theater, that just got put into Blockbuster Tower, all that sort of situation. Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. I do agree with Ian. Take the time, have a conversation with a group of friends. If they're Gen Xers, find out how deep you can go on this. We had a lot of fun.
It's great connective glue, right? For a friendship to have shared experiences from your youth. If you're looking for friends and you want to talk deeper than, hey, how's the weather? Yeah. Have conversations about things like this. It's a great connective tissue.
Yeah, if you ask them what they've seen at the movie theater lately, they're probably going to say nothing.
right.
You ask them about the Breakfast Club, they're going to light up.
Yep.
Ask them about their greatest detention memory.
If they ever had that.
But
Hypothetically.
yes.
Air quotes.
Yes.
Yes. May or may not have had experience with that.
Yeah. So from us at Bonded Voices, Season 2, The Breakfast Club, Gen X, thanks for joining us today. I'm Ian.
I'm Greg.
This is Loren.
And we'll see you next time.
Take care.